Thanks for checking out today's episode of The Experience Curve, where we explore the personal journeys of accomplished individuals, breaking down the steps they took to get where they are, which I hope just might inspire you on your own path forward. Today, I'm joined by Robert Brill, CEO of the media buying agency Brill Media. Today, we're not just talking about media buying, we're talking about the mindset it takes to thrive as an entrepreneur in any industry. From humble beginnings in Los Angeles to leading Brill Media to unprecedented success, Robert's path is a testament to resilience, unwavering determination, and relentless innovation. Constantly at the forefront of industry trends, he's not just a passive observer, he's an active participant, eagerly embracing new technologies and methodologies to stay ahead of the curve. In an industry that's constantly evolving, Robert's embrace of technology has been a game changer. From the rise of AI to the shifting tides of digital marketing, he's not just riding the wave, he's harnessing its power to propel Brill Media forward. And Robert doesn't hold back. He's here to share the insights, strategies, and hard-won lessons that have brought him to the top of the game. So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur hungry for fresh insights or just dipping your toes into the world of business ownership, there's something here for everyone. Good afternoon, Robert. Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
For people listening, right, like I always start at the beginning, what drew you to, advertising, marketing, whatever it might be at a young age, or was this something you developed later on in your life?
I've always been interested in mass communications. As a kid growing up, I was fascinated by like New York because all the cool movies took place in New York, notably Batman with Michael Keaton in 1989. But I don't know, very specific. But like so many movies and shows took place in New York, and so I was fascinated with this idea that like people could do stuff and lots of people would see it. So I then paid attention to commercials and whatnot, and just different types of marketing. And then I had this job while I was an intern really, but it was a paid internship, and they told me all the things you could do in the advertising business: creative development, account management, and media buying. And so being a numbers person, I really gravitated towards the media buying component of it. And so finally, when I graduated school, I really focused in on, like, I looked for the job titles. I wanted to be an assistant digital media buyer. This was 2004 when I was graduating college. So I knew like it was good. Like I got to understand exactly the jobs I was looking for, and I was lucky enough to get one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in the Northeast. So it's the same kind of thing, and when you're in college, you kind of take these courses and they're like, okay, here's your, trajectory. You can either go this way, this way, this way. Oftentimes it was the same thing. I ended up coming to LA instead. I'm like, I'll try it for 6 months and here I am all these years later. But yeah, it's like, but when you're in like that age, college, was it like something where you decided, okay, I'm going to try the corporate thing for a while and see how that goes? Because obviously you didn't, right, start a company right away.
Right. So yeah, so a little bit. I've had my company for the last 10 years, and for 20 years I've worked in the advertising business. And I remember telling this story, telling my parents I really wanted to be an entrepreneur because a friend of mine was like, I'm going to graduate college and be an entrepreneur. And my parents were like, but you don't know how to do anything. I'm like, okay, great. So I guess I'll go get a job. So I looked for the job in the advertising business. But yeah, I think, you know, so this was back in 2004, and I think the tools are far more advanced right now. So you're able to actually make a lot of things happen without a lot of experience, which is incredibly valuable for the entrepreneur landscape. And I think fundamentally, though, that just getting that 10 years of experience gave me so much raw material to work with, and I learned the ins and outs of the business, which was learned people, learned relationships, learned the practitioner work of how the work goes, and it was invaluable.
So how long do you continue this until you decide, you're going to start your own company, right? Like how many years are going by and the experience you're getting to make you feel like, okay, like here I am in my career or even personally, right? Some people, they have kids or they're married and they're like, I don't know if this is the best time to start a business, but
Yeah, look, I think this may not be particularly like a nice thing to say, but there's never really a great time to have kids, and there's never a great time to start a business. Like there's always going to be a reason why we should wait, or you should not, like you should wait, get things in a better position. I was of the opinion, and I almost I'm now married. I have a 5-year-old, and so I'm talking about the woman who I ended up marrying. I was under the impression that I need to have, like, a bunch of money in the bank and I need to be settled. But what I didn't realize when I met her, and I started the business within a year of meeting her, is that I was already well established in my career. When I met my wife, I was 32 years old, I believe, and I had spent about a good 8 years in advertising. Nine, actually, it was close to 9 or 10 years in the advertising business at that point. And I just thought, like, I had this really great job for a lot of reasons, and then the company I worked for went away. They went bankrupt, and I thought, well, if I'm going to have to restart and re-engage and climb my way up another corporation, I'm going to have to I'd rather do it for myself than for someone else. That was a big catalyst. I was reading, is this concept of good to great. Good is the barrier to great. Like, if something is good, when you're getting paid what you want to get paid and you have the authority and the cachet and the organization, which I had, it would have been a big, massive risk to leave all that behind for, like, not to make money for 2 years. And it would have been hard for me to leave and do that. But when the company went bankrupt, it was a big actual opportunity to kind of, like, restart something. It was a catalyst. But I'd been thinking about it for, like, maybe 1 to 2 years, because I felt that there's this, like, I knew enough about how marketing and advertising worked. My job at the time, I was responsible for media buying, so buying advertising space for big corporations, ConocoPhillips, Toshiba, PetSmart, Bacardi, a few others. And I saw, like, how much power these companies wielded by making strategic ad buys that we were deploying for them. And I thought, man, this could be really helpful for, not Fortune 500, because at the time Conoco was Fortune 4, I believe. And I was like, man, every mom and pop business owner, even if your whole business is a $5 or $10 million business or whatever, far smaller than ConocoPhillips, I was like, man, I could be really helpful to those companies. And what I learned over the process is that you can be exceptionally successful and you're never going to be on Forbes, but it could change your lives. It could change your life. And that's what I'm doing. Like, I don't have an aspiration to build $100 million company. Like, that's too much work. I don't want to do it. There's a lot of sacrifice. I'd rather spend time with my wife and my child, and spend time with my child growing up. And but, like, for a year or two, I was thinking about it. I was told, like, you're kind of smart, you're doing good things, etc. And but the catalyst was the company I was working for went away.
So was there a reason that you didn't go? Because I believe you're an LA native, right? So you kind of stayed here and kind of planted your, everything from your childhood through today. You never did go out to New York, right? To kind of
I did actually. I spent a year and a half in New York. I was like, I'm gonna live in New York, and I did. And it was great. I loved it. And I would have stayed there longer. And the only reason I left as soon as I did is because, it's a long story, but I was freelancing. I got a job. I worked for another agency for the entire time I lived in New York. And then I was also freelancing for yet another agency. The company I was freelancing for, the company that was my daytime job, found out I was freelancing and then let me go, thinking that I was being nefarious, which I wasn't. They thought I was, like, stealing clients or something, but I wasn't. I was just, you know, I took advantage of the time difference between New York and LA. So from the hours of, like, 6 to 9, I'd usually be working on another agency's business. And they let me go, and the agency that I was freelancing for picked me up, which was the company I was at for 5 years, which was the company that ultimately I left and then started my own company.
gotcha. Okay, so you did get to go into Gotham a little bit and get the kind of vibe, right?
Oh, so great. I remember watching Cloverfield. Like, to me, this was the epitome. Like, Cloverfield is one of those, like, exceptional disaster movies or monster movies that takes place in New York. And as a kid growing up, I was so enamored, like I said, with New York. It was such a cool feeling for me to watch Cloverfield in New York at like midnight, watching the city get destroyed and knowing all the parts of the city that they're in. It was so good for my soul. And then that other zombie movie with Will Smith, I forgot its name, but you know which one, with the dog. And anyway, watching those two movies in New York was phenomenal for me.
Yeah, it's the vibe there, the feeling you get. It's just hard to really describe to you, dude. I had a friend that grew up out here, and he had to go to New York City for a meeting for the first time. Grew up in the South Bay. He came back, and he's like, "Man, I feel like I grew up on a farm my whole life." You know, it's just he's been downtown LA, but never just in a city with that magnitude.
It's so different. There's so much really great energy, and it feels like there's so much opportunity around every corner. The only thing that's weird for me is that I start to get claustrophobic. Like, you don't have access to like direct sunlight most of the time you're in New York.
Right.
But it was amazing.
It is. It's definitely it's hard to describe unless you've been there and kind of felt it. So for like on your website, right? It says your company's focus on a quote media buying agency, focus on precision advertising for business growth. Can you break down for people listening, like in more simpler terms, like what that means and how you kind of came up with it for this business?
Yeah. So our clients are usually other agencies, and we're a white label ad buying firm. So what that means, and when we talk about advertising, fundamentally, advertising is when you spend money to deliver a message on a network like television or streaming like Hulu, on radio or audio like Pandora, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. So this is not posting content, because posting content is free, anyone can post, and you'll get limited reach. It's not search engine optimization where Google finds your site and pushes up to the top when it is relevant for a keyword. It's really when you want to deliver scale for your business. You want to reach a lot of people with a very specific message that that works to build your business. So we talk about precision and scalable because advertising is the most direct path to targeted growth. Like, you can isolate your audience, deliver them the message, and predictably grow your business. And that's what we do. And a lot of our clients are going to be agencies that pair up their like usually creative services with our ad buying services, and we go to market together.
So would that be like if someone, again, for people listening that are, hey, on the fence about leaving that corporate job and, I definitely like to ask people, how did you find your first client? Was it through previous agency relationships or was it, cold outreach or how did you like when you decide, okay, I'm going to do this. I got my, office, whatever it is at the time. Now I need business, or was it already kind of built in and that helped you make the leap?
Right. Let's talk about that. So, zero. I started my business and I had zero clients because, number one, there's no way to like, I can't poach agency clients, right? Because that wouldn't be ethical. You can't do that, and it would just open up a ton of legal stuff. So there's no doing that. What we're really talking about here, is product market fit, right? How do you know what to say, how to say it in a way that compels people to spend money with you, and also how do you price your business in a way that's compelling for people? So there's like two steps before that. Number one, don't get an office. You have the website is the new office. You just, it's your shingle. Like, that's the thing. But I had tried to start 4 different other businesses because I was trying to avoid dealing with the hurdles of starting an ad buying firm. So I did influencer marketing, I did consulting, I did social media, which I had no unique offering there. I tried to be an influencer on the food side, which makes no sense. But like, the pinnacle of my influencer marketing career was I got paid by Holiday Inn Express to make a Vine video for $2,500. But my life was going down south real quick because like a week later, my then girlfriend broke up with me because I was just being incredibly difficult. It was like the worst. When I said, okay, now I'm going to actually do the thing that I'm the best at, which is ad buying, that's when the business started to kind of take off. So you have to consider product market fit. I spent about 2 years talking about my business to anyone who would listen at networking events, conferences, meetups, and I paid attention to when those conversations would lead to further conversations? What were the combination of words and phrases that I could say that led people to want to learn more from me? So I learned, and this is, if you want to just fast track this whole thing for, for anyone listening, just don't do the thing I did for the first 2 years. Know the following. And the following is, you want to focus on your customers' problems. What are they trying to solve for, and how do you let them achieve that? So there's kind of like two things here. Number one, like, let's say restaurants. Everyone understands restaurants, and some of my clients were restaurants. With restaurants, the business owner who wants marketing work, they usually want marketing because they want to grow their revenue. Like, that's not particularly insightful. Like, most business owners want to grow their revenue and they want more profit. But the question is, why do they want more profit? Why do they want more revenue? And the reason for that has to do with themselves, like their personal reasons for existing. Like, do they want success and freedom? Do they want financial success? Do they want to scale a personal vision? Do they want to be known as someone who contributes to their community? Other factors as well. But like, what's the thing that is in their heart that they're trying to solve for through the conduit of building a bigger business, right? So the faster we can align our business services to the thing that's in the buyer's heart that they're trying to solve for, the more you'll be able to sell. So you're really talking about the problems that your customers are having. So my suggestion is, ChatGPT certainly didn't exist in 2014, 15, etc. But go to ChatGPT and ask it what are the problems that a restaurant owner is trying to solve? And then ask it, why are restaurant owners trying to be successful? And then you'll get a list of those answers about why they want success. Like, they like the artistry of food, or they want to be known as a great chef because that feels something in their soul, right? So whatever those elements are, that's when you start to organize your thoughts into something that people will buy. I'll give you what I actually did to actually directly answer your question. Talk to a bunch of people, realize that no one cares how smart I am. No one cares about programmatic advertising or hyper local, none of that stuff, because it's not relevant to the business owner. What the business owner needs, and one of my first clients was a restaurant, and he was like, I need more people between the hours of 2 and 5, and I need a higher order value. And I need more people in the door. Those are the three things. So now I can orient my conversation about how my ad buying services will achieve higher order value, or more people in the door during breakfast, or more people in the door between the hours of 2 to 5, right? So you start to orient those conversations. So I learned how to talk about my business so that it would orient around my customers' needs. And that's when I started to get business. I also relied on my relationships. So I didn't have like clients coming out the door. I had people who knew me as a person who is trustworthy, does good work, and is communicative and enthusiastic and likes to work. So I leveraged my network, and that my network resulted in clients as well. And I also went to people who were far more experienced than me. So if I had 10 years experience, these were people who had 20, 30, 40 years experience. And I said, please open some doors for me and I'll find a way to financially compensate you. And I did. And that's how doors were opened to me, because they lent me their credibility. And by lending me the credibility, I got in the door, and it all kind of clicked. And the one tactical way I got the restaurant client is this was regarding me trying to be a food influencer. I have a friend who's an editor. He films. He does he's really talented. He films or edits reality TV and scripted dramas. He was like, I'll film. So I wanted to go to restaurants and be like, a food influencer. So I went door to door in Santa Monica, trying to find restaurants that would allow me to film in their place. Like, let's do this. I'll even pay for the food. It's fine. And that one of the people I reached out to in that process turned into one of our restaurant clients. So simply going door to door and offering something for free is a really great tactical way to get clients.
It's definitely like thinking over time, and it's not that long, right? You said, 2014 or 11 years or so you've been having this or been in this business, your personal business. How about shifts like in media buying in general? Like, how have things changed from that time you started to today?
They're kind of like three trends to pay attention to. The first is algorithmic targeting. You're going less. So if you're doing social media in particular, you're relying much more on the algorithm. So on Meta, for example, you can target very broad audiences instead of very granular audiences. So the traditional way of running ads on Meta, for example, is you create a bunch of different ad groups, and those ad groups are going to have a lot of different very niche targeting in it. And you're constantly creating ad groups. They're all running the same ads, but you're constantly testing the targeting. So now reverse that. Instead of making a lot of ad groups with different targeting and the same creative, you're doing a lot of different, you're doing one ad group and you're constantly changing the creative and you're testing the creative. So the ad group targeting is going to be broad: age, gender, and location, because Meta is really good at finding or routing your ad creative to the people who are most interested in what you have to say. So like for me, we're targeting age, gender, and location, 25 to like 65, gender, men and women, location, the entire United States. And we are constantly trying new creative executions through a creative testing framework using science, control, and variable testing, powered by Meta's algorithm, to identify which ad creative is our best creative month over month. And that's how we learn how to speak to our customers. It's a form of iterating on product market fit. So you're going very broad, and the same thing is happening with like Google Performance Max and like TikTok's smart performance campaigns. You're giving it data through your pixel. It starts to pick up on the characteristics of your buyers, and then you're telling it, go find me the buyers wherever they are. And that's what you're doing. Even with Google search ads, you might be targeting a very narrow set of keywords, but your creative is still dynamically tested. 15 different headlines, 4 different descriptions, and Google is going to mix and match those combinations in a way that's going to be the most effective for your business. So that's number one, broad targeting. Number two is going to be the creative testing component. Creative is going to be the driver for success. Knowing how to target is important, as with the algorithmic targeting, but we're a lot more focused on creative development than we've ever been. So if a client has like 5 ads, we say you'll need like 100 over time. But be prepared to create ads. And if you don't want to create it, we'll create it for you, that type of thing. So there's this constant optimization dynamic. And I think the third thing is going to be, I think the most underappreciated component of advertising is how these channels work together. So it's like an orchestra. Like you have 20 violins, 10 trumpets, I don't know what else goes into an orchestra. You have like 50 different people playing an instrument, but in unison, they create this really special sound. The orchestra is your combination of channels, optimization strategies, the things you do within the campaign to make them work. All these kind of things work together to create the symphony of sales. You never want to be in a position where you say, well, I'm running Facebook ads, I'm running connected television on Hulu, and I'm running Google. And you're saying, well, Google is the best performer, so I'm going to stop Facebook and Hulu, because those are driving demand. They're giving you, they're exposing your business to people who are eventually going to be interested in what you're buying. And the interest shows up in a Google search and better performance on your Google search ads, or better performance on your search engine optimization. So if you turn off the thing that's driving demand, you're actually turning off the future sales opportunities that you'll have, and you'll start to see your Google search performance start to tank. All of this collectively ties into a strategy. Like, never run a campaign. You never want to be in a position where you're boosting a post, because that's the lazy way. And it's lazy not because it's easy. I love lazy. The best entrepreneurs are lazy entrepreneurs, because they want things fast and easy. But there has to be a strategy there. And most of your optimizations, when you're running boosted posts on Meta, you're optimizing to engagement. Likes, comments, and shares don't pay the bills, but so you can't optimize to those things. So you don't want to be boosting a post. You need a strategy. You need to know like your KPIs. What are you optimize? Like what is the key performance indicator for your business? Like how are you going to grow your business? And you need to know your marketing history and the economics of your business, and pair all that information, your ideal customer, and pair all that information with tactics that work right now to achieve the goals that you've set out. So the fifth element here is going to be like work with an expert or hire an expert or work with someone who understands the business. Don't do it yourself, because no one for most business owners, no one expects you to be an expert at advertising, just like you wouldn't expect me to be an expert at like fixing your car when it doesn't work, or fixing the plumbing, because like that's not what I'm trained to do.
Yeah, no, that's great. It made me think, like, when you were saying that, obviously you're rattling off so much knowledge. It's like, masterclass. How do you sort of like stay at the forefront of all these trends and kind of like, obviously that's what people are hiring you to do. How do you personally ensure that you're like on top of these things, and like, is it competitors and what they're doing? So it's like, okay, I see what that company's doing. We need to sort of incorporate that into what we're offering for our services. Or are you kind of just like just into this, so you just are always on top of things, or events or whatever it might be?
I mean, we have a team of buyers, right? So they're the ones who are actually keeping me informed. I'm also taking trainings. I'm paying for courses. I'm going to conferences where I learn a lot. I listen to podcasts. But at the end of the day, it's constant learning. Like it never stopped. The trends, it's kind of it's kind of interesting. Like what we do is the fundamentals. Like when you focus on the fundamentals, you'll be successful. Like things like passive income. There is no such thing as passive income. Like when something sounds like it's going to be a shortcut, it usually ends up being a long cut. It takes you far more time, it's too expensive, and it doesn't actually give you the results. So we focus on the things that work day in and day out, and just we know like it's never been the case where creative hasn't been the key driver of success. It's always creative. Now we understand in the current moment the intricacies of how it works with our platforms, and now we know how to use AI to amplify how much creative we can develop. But under it's just at the end of the day, it's just experience. You've got to have the experience.
Yeah, and you mentioned briefly at the beginning, your team of buyers. Something I picked up on your website was, it was something about you prioritize happiness and professional fulfillment of your employees, right? And I believe they're all remote.
Yeah, they're all remote. Yes.
So like, how do you sort of like foster that positive work environment, and prioritize their well-being? Like, how much of that do you think contributes to the success of your business?
Yeah. So number one, we hire experts, talented people who are doing this like day in and day out. We've tried to hire people out of college and it never works, because we the nature of our business requires experience, and we don't have the training fundamentals to keep people out of college like not motivated. They're motivated, but it just doesn't work. It's the environment that doesn't work. So we end up hiring really expensive, very talented people. We're looking for that entrepreneurial spirit. But look, at the end of the day, here's the reality of it. The business needs to nurture its people. And this might sound a little dystopian, but at the end of the day, it's standard operating procedures. Like if you believe that people genuinely want to do good with their profession, you need to give them a framework for how to do good in the business. When does your job start? When does your job finish? And when is it on to the next person's responsibility? So there was a summer where we tripled our staff, and it almost tanked our business because people were quitting, and I was working more than ever, which made no sense because we just hired a bunch of people. We didn't have a standard operating procedure. When we implemented it, it creates this like virtuous cycle. People want to do good. You give them an SOP. They know when they do good and when their responsibilities start and end. They stay with the business longer. They output better work. Clients are happier. Clients give us more work. We hire. I don't have to train people. The senior people in the experience, the people who have been in the business for a while, they start to train new people. So it's this virtuous cycle upwards. We also don't micromanage. I don't micromanage. I think when people I think what we could be doing better, and I think it's an important part of it, is people understanding the vision and the mission for the business, who we're trying to serve, what we're trying to achieve. I've also listened to people who are far better at this than I am in terms of like motivating a team. Like our chief operating officer, she's been instrumental ensuring that we have a happy team, that they get the reviews that they need, that they have the opportunity to talk about their the things that are good about their business, about their work, and the things that they don't like about working here, so we can improve things. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't have a business if it weren't for the great people that work in the business.
Yeah, you could tell that you guys really, or take care of the people that work for you. So obviously that positive work environment. And what about like when you're even when you were starting or now, how important do you see as mentorship, starting your own company?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the great joys. I really like working with people who want to do big things. Our very first hire, he was part-time, and he stayed with us for 5 years. He was like very early after that, he became full-time with us, but he stayed with us for a total of 5 years. And it's a great achievement for me to know that someone who started with us was able to find a place and be happy within this organization. And we still keep in touch, even though he's moved on. But I think the organization has to provide a foundation for that, a clearing for that growth. It matters to me that people have professional development. And I think throughout my career, people have told me, like, you've challenged me in a good way, not a bad way. You've allowed me to learn things. You've maybe I'm not the one teaching them, because often it's like, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to figure it out. But at least having the guidance of like, here's what you need to accomplish, and then having the right people who will actually go out and do that, I think plays a big role in people who are professionally curious.
Yeah, because it seems like, I think I read on your site that you've been, recognized in like Inc. 5000, Financial Times 500, like, a lot of prestigious lists, write ups about your company. Like, what do you sort of attribute that success to? I mean, obviously, you started the company with the vision, you hired all these great people around you, having your SOP, like everything you're kind of putting together. Is that sort of like the whole package, is what the recognition's about?
I think the recognition is about the totality of the business output, right? Like, none of that happens if we don't have clients who trust us. And we have clients who trust us because we demonstrate every day that we deserve a seat at the table. We deserve to service those clients. And I think what what I gained over the 10 years of working at other agencies is a vision for what an agency could be. And I'm very happy that we've built a really powerful agency. And I'm also very I've been the beneficiary of really smart people and really talented people in different areas that all come together to drive the success of this business. Partners, consultants, people who have worked with the company long periods of time and short periods of time, and finally, the willingness to understand and learn from each experience is going to be very valuable as well. Like, I know there's a lot for me to learn, and I am going to be very open that I'm looking for learnings, and over time, that mindset of everything that happens is a learning opportunity is a great mindset. So I think all those things in totality yield a great business.
Yeah, and it looks like as a CEO, obviously you do interviews, you're active on social media, right? So like personal branding that maybe wasn't as necessary, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't in 2014 or so. But like for you, for people listening, like how much of you putting into your personal brand do you think contributes to success, or is it a compliment, or that is something maybe you didn't think of 10 years ago and now it's more of of something that's on your mind when it wasn't before?
Yeah, I mean, I think personal brand has been, the brand is like how people think about you in their minds. And so I didn't have a traditional personal brand in terms of a big following and whatnot, but I there were key people who knew me, liked me, and trusted me. And that's gonna be that's how we started growing our business. At the end of the day, like, I'm looking for, and I think all business owners are looking for, predictable, repeatable, and scalable business growth. Like, whatever that is. If I have to send emails to get that, I'll do that. If I have to make TikToks to do that, I'll do that. Like, I'm looking for the systems and the processes that I can scale up. Like, so for example, we just launched this creative testing framework video. It's 13 minutes. You go to our website and you'll be able to watch the video and get some really in-depth like training on how to accomplish it so you can run Facebook ads like we run Facebook ads effectively. If that's going to be the thing that I need to do and talk about for the next 2 years, I'll do that. I think I'm in this game because I want to rise to the professional challenges that I'm given. And one of the reasons why I started the business is because I want to be a better professional, better business person. And part of that is getting out there, talking about things, not being afraid to look dumb, and just like doing it and being effective and being a better speaker and being a better motivator. So personal brand is part of it. But if that doesn't work, if that's not the thing that drives the business, I'll do other things. I'll be in your inbox.
Exactly. No, I get that. Yeah, you never know, right? You just have to test them and see what makes the most sense. But like, so consumer behavior, right? That's something I always think about when I think about your area of the industry, right? When these streaming platforms came up, when whatever year each of them came out, right? And sort of like these changes in consumer behavior started. Was there a shift in your field about strategies for media buying in general now that we have these platforms out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity now that Netflix and Paramount Plus offer ads and Peacock and whatnot. That's really great. Amazon Prime. Look, I think the dominant channel or the dominant medium for many years or many decades has been television, and that's slowly on the decline. And many people who value their time enough to pay in aggregate $110 a month, which is basically what you're paying cable. But now that you pay all the streaming platforms, you have access to your time in not having to watch commercials. And the people who want to save money, they'll watch commercials and pay with their time. I think fundamentally, marketers and advertisers just need to go where the attention is. And if everyone started reading newspapers again, we'd be in the newspaper business. So we follow the trends, we understand where consumer attention is, and we look for systems and practices that will yield outsized financial benefit to a company by investing in advertising spend and coming back with leads and sales. So yeah, it's great. It's great. What I think is really great is that, television television is characterized as traditional media. There was a different way of measuring television. And I was really fortunate. There's a whole cohort of people like me that came up around the same time, and I didn't have to learn GRPs and targeted rating points and all that. I had to learn impressions and CPMs, and the television medium turned into a digital channel with streaming. So it's actually very fortuitous that we can buy television. I didn't have to figure that out because, learning curves and all that stuff. And it's nice.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you mentioned a little bit earlier ChatGPT, but like with AI in general, it seems like in what I've read about your company, you kind of embrace it, right? Like it's something that you're okay with. Do you see like AI like positively or negatively like impacting how you work, right? Like, is there a level where, you know, this is like an automatic thing where it's kind of putting the customer with the advertiser, or sorry, the production with the advertiser, or do you see that that's just like another tool in your belt that is helping you do a better job?
Yeah, it helps me do a better job. Look, Sam Altman. So I listened to All In podcast, which is another podcast, and they're talking about how Sam Altman has a private WhatsApp group where they're taking friendly bets on when the first company will be created that will be a one-person company with $1 billion valuation built off of AI. That tells you everything you need to know about the future of AI and how it can fundamentally change people's lives. So I'm trying to do that. I'm not trying to build $1 billion company. If I build, a little bit more value out of it on the back of AI, and that's fantastic for me. So I think that tells you the power of what it can do. Now it's a matter of deploying it in a way that's effective. Like there's a tool called HeyGen that allows you to film video, and then that video turns into AI. So you can type up what you want to say. And it's like me talking, but typing up the words, and it looks quite real. That's great. Like that's good for creating mass pieces of content, or very customized pieces of content that we're experimenting with. There's a way in using ChatGPT and Zapier to create 150 word like synopses of topics that can be used as emails in an email newsletter, fully automated. Now, granted, you might have to curate that a little bit, but literally you have ChatGPT create the topic, you copy and paste 10 or 100 or 300 topics into a Google Doc, and then Zapier will have a conversation with ChatGPT, which will turn into a 150 word snippet of what you can talk about, email marketing for e-commerce, whatever the case is. And it gives you a topic. Now you have 100 or 300 different email newsletters to send out to people. It's so straightforward. So what we've done, we used ChatGPT we built a copywriting agent so that it can basically scrape the content of a website and understand how a brand talks about itself, to then create ads that are, for Facebook ads or Google ads, whatever. Write headlines for this website and use, we've programmed it to understand the best copywriting frameworks that have ever existed and the people who are the best at copywriting throughout history. And so it will spit out like 50 different headlines for a Google ad that you still have to curate. There still has to be a component of that, of curation, but the work is far easier, and we get 42% higher click rate on those ads. So it works.
Wow. Okay. So it's really, it is more, and two, obviously you see it as more of a positive component than some people who might be scared of like, oh no, this is coming from my job.
I mean, it's a tool, right? Like it's like everything can turn into if you don't know how to do something, like other people will know how to use the tools, and the people who know how to use the tools will be better at something. Like I think there are jobs that are going to be disintermediated by AI and taken over by AI, but I think fundamentally people who understand strategy and business and how to use the tools to be more effective will always be valuable.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page on that one. It's it's inevitable, so you might as well right, embrace it.
You just got to be careful, right? Like, so for example, Google, you can write SEO content, articles for your website and have AI write it. You got to be careful of that, because AI is going to be flagged by Google's algorithm, and then your site will actually be deranked or deprioritized in the search rankings. So you just have this is where having the industry knowledge and the experience helps you make good decisions with it. Because someone who doesn't know that just makes a full-on website off of Chat GPT writing, and then you get dinged with an update and your site doesn't get ranked anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It sounds like because you have the knowledge of these, you're sort of ahead of or right on top of the latest technology. That's a huge piece of why you have such success. I think because a lot of people would just say, "Oh, why do I need this guy to help me? I could just do this myself," and they're not realizing it's having a negative effect. So just to me,
Out the gate, like you're boosting. There's 10 million businesses on Meta that are spending money on advertising, and a lot of them are boosting posts. Out the gate, you're on the wrong path.
and well, how about for you? Like, do you ever seek assistance or guidance or whatever you might, from other people, like your own mentors, like not just you as a mentor to your employees, but you having personal mentors?
Yeah, I think my wife gives me good advice because she's very smart and she's far away enough from the business to have a perspective that isn't clouded by all the stuff that's happening in the business. So it's very valuable. I pay attention to our accounting team, a husband and wife group that are keeping track of the money and looking at trends over a lot of different businesses. I recently paid a person named Edward Sturm a few $1,000s to teach me about SEO, because we don't offer SEO and I don't want to offer SEO, but I want to understand SEO better for our own business. And it was life changing. Like I understood what to do. I did it for a few months, and then I hired an SEO person. All he does every day is make web pages, write content. And since October, at the very end of October 22 or 23 is when I started doing this SEO work. We've increased our domain rank from 22 to 32. So like a big jump over the course of like 6 months or whatever it is. So valuable. Always pay the experts. Accelerate, save your time, accelerate the process, and start working on things that are going to be accretive to your business rather than trying to figure them out.
Yeah, like would you say, or what would you say in terms of traits that maybe a successful entrepreneur or someone aspiring should possess in order to succeed? Right? Is part of it listening to others, that other experts, or what would you kind of say to people who are, okay, I want to start a business, or I'm in this space, but I don't really know where to go. Do I even have the right personality type for this?
I think having a business is about, if I were to think about the sort of recipe for being a good business person or an entrepreneur, it's knowing how to do something valuable. Like I spent 10 years in advertising, so I knew how to buy advertising space. So knowing something that's valuable, but that's not going to be the thing that grows your business, because knowing how to sell has nothing to do with buying advertising space. Taking financial risks has nothing to do with buying advertising space. It's about risk aversion or not being risk averse, and learning how to talk and how to understand what you're saying so that it turns into people spending money with you. That's not ad buying, that's just sales. Being an advocate. So if I had to look at the recipe, it would be, you have to know how to do something like that people want. You've got to be okay being the architect and the janitor. So doing the entire process. Like, you can't be the person who knows how to do one thing really well, but like you don't like talking to people. That's going to be tough for you to sell. You can get a co-founder for that, and they can be the seller and the evangelist for your business. But if you're going to do it yourself, you've got to be cool talking to people. And then really it's about like iterating quickly and tinkering. Like, think of yourself as a scientist. Like, every word you say, you've got to somehow mentally calibrate whether or not it was beneficial for you to say that, or beneficial for you to go to a conference, or beneficial for you to post on social, or beneficial for you to have a meeting. Like, whatever it is, you've got to kind of constantly be calibrating. Okay, is this good for me for the business, or is it bad for me? Am I wasting my time? And that kind of like constant calibration, constant tinkering, or constant testing is going to be valuable, because you'll be able to get to that point where you know what to say and how to say it and how to price your business so that people buy from you, which is effectively called product market fit. When you're starting out, you're just looking for ways that people will spend money for you, with you. And that could be tweaking your service or your product. It could be changing how you talk about your business. It could be changing the channels in which you talk about your business. It could be understanding or getting a better insight into your sales process. Like, if you're selling x-ray machines to hospitals and the sales cycle is like 3 years, like, you can't stop at 18 months, because you're not going to have a chance to even close the deal. So simply understanding like that it takes a certain amount of time to close a sale, that insight will fundamentally prepare you to go the distance so you can get to the point where a sale can occur. Now, if you're an e-commerce product, the sales cycle could be 6 days. So then it doesn't make sense to run ads for the same product 45 days after they visited your site. Right? So you really got to understand the nature of your business, and you've got to be curious. You've got to be a tinkerer. AI, be a tech tinkerer. Like, figure out how to make AI do the things that you don't know how to do, or you don't want to do, or that will allow you to scale. So it's this constant curiosity. And then finally, I would say it's grit, because things are hard. Everything's hard. It'll take far more time and far more money than you think it will take. So like, do you have the money to like pay your rent for 2 years instead of 1 year? Do you have the mindset, the growth mindset, to be able to be cool with every time you fail at something, to use it as a learning experience rather than just another example of how I'm a failure? Like, that's a fixed mindset. So if you look at these opportunities as learning opportunities, like, you're building muscle, you're getting better at doing what you're doing. So I think mindset's going to be a very powerful part of that equation.
Oh yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, I think a lot of people just, again, they want the fast results, and that's probably where a lot of it leads to burnout, because they just think it's going to happen overnight, and then they realize, wait a minute, I have to put in a lot of time and energy and effort into this, and then perfecting my skill, whatever it might be. Like you said, you start out with something you're good at, but that's not just going to pay your bills. You have to continue and go on and on from there. Two more questions I want to ask you. One was personal life. Like you mentioned, your child, I think, is 5. You said you lean on your wife for questions. Like how is just you being an entrepreneur led to just personal life fulfillment versus, again, having that office and going in every day and kind of thing. Like how much of you being running your own companies led to that kind of personal fulfillment?
I'm constantly stressed and I'm usually anxious. That's not fulfilling at all. My wife has taught me to celebrate the small wins. Yeah, live like enjoy when things are good, and don't take things too hard when things are bad, and enjoy life. So, despite how anxious and frenetic I constantly feel, I'm able to enjoy life because of my wife. I think being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart, and I'm actually very risk averse, so that's why there's this like friction there. And it's like a lifestyle. Like you've got to be cool with the ups and the downs. And if you're good with that, and if you're not going to get ahead of your skis, making bad financial decisions when things are good, so that you can pay for when things are bad, it's a good place to be. The reason why people shouldn't become an entrepreneur is because you want to know what your paycheck is every month. There was a while where I said, it's very like I thought being employed was the safe bet. But it's not. Like salespeople get laid off every 18 months. In the agency business, there's constantly moving, people around and people getting laid off and then having to find a new job, and et cetera. It's like, man, at some point that gets old. Like, I don't want to do that. I felt that it's going to be risky either way. It's just change the type of risk that you take. But I think it's like when things are great, it's great. Like, I can focus on the work that I like to do, not that I have to do. Because there are certain things I want to do and certain things I don't want to do. And I think that's one of the perks of being the CEO or the owner of a company. But on the downside is there's some things you have to do that no matter what, you're going to have to do it at the same time. So you build a team to solve for the weaknesses that you have, which is great. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be work that you don't want to do. It's like both speaking out of both sides of my mouth, basically.
Well, then what was your like? Where do you see the company going? Like, what are your aspirations for the company, like going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of what we're trying to accomplish is continuing to grow the business, steady growth. The Inc. 5000, Financial Times 500 are indications of annual growth, and we want to continue that annual growth. We're building a world-class advertising agency. It's, we've built a lot of muscle in how to properly serve clients and be incredibly effective with our advertising campaigns and be able to serve more clients more effectively. So it's continuing that mission of being effective for our clients in a way that's going to be very, very additive to their bottom lines.
You're doing everything it seems to be, putting yourself in the right path that you've been doing already to continue that forward, is, I guess, is what I should say. So for people listening, like, where would be the best place to kind of, follow you, connect with you?
Yeah. Go to brillmedia.co, B as in boy, RILL media.co, and set a time to talk with us. Click the Start Now button and we can have a strategy conversation.
Yeah, I'll link that in the show notes as well. Man, I really appreciate your time today. I learned a lot, and I thought I knew a good amount about media buying and advertising and things like that, just from friends and colleagues over the years. Thanks for sharing that story, your story, and learning all about your company and just all the cool stuff you're doing, and just how much of a just student and just like I said, it felt like a masterclass just listening to you break down everything you do. So, thank you for sharing that. And of course, for your time today.
Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Experience Curve. Please take the time to share this podcast with a friend or colleague to help get the word out about my show.